You know it's coming, right? Governments are armed and the buzzing of a fly can trigger the catastrophe. After that there will be nothing.
Do you really think there will be nothing? Won't there be a chance that after the explosion we start over?
Not likely. Do you realize this tension involves many armed and frightened countries?
Frightened of what? Why would powerful countries be afraid?
Afraid of other countries more powerful than them.
What difference does it make to be a little bit more or less powerful? Can't they be content with what they have?
I love the way you think, but no. You see, the more they have, the more they want. That's the way human beings are.
But for example, you or I, we're not like that.
We're not because we can be. Because we don't have any chance of even having the slightest power over anyone. We're honest because we can't be otherwise. Just wait until you or I are in the position of these powerful people. We will be the same, or worse than them.
How can you say that?
It's the absolute truth. Mankind is programmed to do evil. Our wildest desires, our greed, our envy, selfishness, idolatry, they all point to evil.
There are a lot of good people.
Do you really think so? They only project an appearance of goodness, but it's an illusion. That sort of kindness is due to weakness and impotence. You give power to a weak person, you see what he becomes, the most sadistic of tyrants.
Nonsense. Look at Clara, she's all that matters to me now. What will be left for her if everything explodes?
Nothing. But who cares? She won't be here to enjoy what's left anyway.
More nonsense, we're talking about our daughter.
Look, Loretta, these are instructions distributed by the government to build a homemade bunker. Well, let's get to work. Here it says what we'll need. A hammer, some nails, a canvas, sandbags. Now tell me, where we're supposed to get a canvas and the sand? An electrical generator? And look at this. There's a list of things to buy in the supermarket. Non-perishable foods and cans and stuff. It's a good thing we already have them. A couple of days ago I bought everything my common sense told me to buy. Here there's a group of drawings suggesting on using furniture as a shield.
Our furniture, but our couch, our dining room tables, they will be ruined.
How will they be ruined? I'll set them up carefully to form a barrier, so they won't be damaged. Well, actually, when everything's over, there will be nothing left.
The struggle of the individual against the universal is revealing itself in the World War as well as in the art of the present day.
The war is destroying the old world and its contents. Individual domination exists in every state.
The new art has brought forth what the new consciousness of time contains, a balance between the universal and the individual.
The new consciousness is prepared to realize internal life as well as external life.
Traditions, dogmas, and the domination of the individual are opposed to this realization.
The founders of the new plastic arts therefore call upon all who believe in the reformation of art and culture as a means to annihilate obstacles of development. In the new plastic arts, by abolishing natural forms that prevents the clear expression of art, the utmost consequence of all notion of art is annihilated.
The artists of today have been driven, the whole world over, by the same consciousness, and therefore have taken part, from an intellectual point of view, in the war against the domination of individual despotism. They therefore, either intellectually or materially, sympathize with all who work towards the formation of an international unity in life, art and culture. And what do you suggest we use as the roof for a small bunker?
I think the main part should be a cabinet against the wall so that it forms an angle of 45 degrees. There's a problem. If we place it with the shells in, everything will fall on our heads. But if we place it with the shells out, we won't be able to take anything from them during the catastrophe. I think it's better to give up this idea.
About the canvas, the government recommends us to use. If we take two chairs, like facing each other, and stretch the canvas over them.
No, too weak. Besides, I don't think it's a good idea to go out and buy a canvas now. It's too late. People must be out there panicking in search of supplies. Canvas, sandbags. We don't have any of those things. We'll have to manage with the furniture from our house.
But our home's decoration is minimalistic. Our house is neoplasticistic. Its large windows leave us exposed to the exterior. And the lines of the walls end on the horizon. I can't see how we can protect ourselves in a house like this. We live in the antithesis of a bunker. This architecture is anti-cubic. It doesn't try to combine all functional space cells in a closed cube. Instead, it projects them centrifugally from the center. Thus, height, length and depth, plus time, acquire a completely new plastic expression in open spaces. The architecture achieves a more or less fluctuating look which counteracts nature's force of gravity.
Well, honey, calm down. There must be a way. The textures and materials of the dining table and the chairs are sure to be shock absorbent and protect us against sudden thermal change.
I'm scared.
Don't worry, everything will be apart.
Pero bueno, ¿y toda esta gente?
Venimos al refugio igual que usted, señora.
Bien, sí, yo no digo... ¡Cuidado, señor! Acaba de empezar una obra de Albert Owen.
Disculpe, señora, hágase cargo. Yo no veo.
Pero, ¿qué ha dicho usted que tienen aquí?
Es una colección de arte. Bueno, no se preocupe. No creo que haya pasado nada. El hombre, al despertar, tiene una falsa idea. Debo acabar de emprender una tarea que merece la pena. Y por eso el sueño queda relegado al interior de un paréntesis. Y al igual que la noche. Y por eso el sueño y la noche se consideran irrelevantes. Quiero que me lleven al cementerio en un camión de mudanza.
Ay, Antonio, ya no tenemos más mantas, ni con qué calentarle para darle calor. ¿Qué podemos hacer?
Pues deberíamos de hacer lumbre para que se pueda calentar.
Entonces, tiene nombre en la vida, en su aspecto más precario. Es decir, en la vida real. Normalmente, que la fe acaba por desaparecer.
A ver, no podemos quemar todo esto así como así. Estas obras son únicas, son una parte muy importante de nuestra vida. Reunir todas estas pinturas, grabados y fotografías nos ha llevado mucho tiempo, mucha energía y dinero, sobre todo dinero. Pero claro, Antonio está muy enfermo. Y hay que calentar este sitio de cualquier manera. Pero estas imágenes, salidas de esas mentes visionarias, no se puede perder.
We've been here all night. Nothing has happened. The sun is rising. Do you think we can go out?
I don't know. It seems calm, like a regular morning.
What's that noise?
It seems like people are celebrating something. They're singing.
He pensado una cosa. ¿Tienes algunos lápices, bolígrafos o algo así?
A ver. Sí, mire, esto.
Perfecto. Vamos a copiar en la pared de Búnker todos estos dibujos.
¿A copiarlos?
Sí, copiarlos. Es la manera de conservar todo esto, todas estas imágenes que nos han acompañado tanto tiempo. Ponte tú con los figurativos, que se te da muy bien dibujar. Y yo me pongo a copiar estos otros, son más fáciles. Toma.
¿Usted sabe qué? Yo me acuerdo cuando era chiquitica que a mí me encantaba dibujar. Yo cogía la pintura y hacía una flor grandísima y nube en una libreta que me regaló mi papá. Para Navidades. Un día se me ocurrió dibujar todo el pasillo de mi casa de nube y flores. Mi mamá se enfadó. Me hizo limpiarlo, claro. Y nada. Después mi papá me regaló una pizarra súper bonita, donde yo podía dibujar y borrar todas las veces que yo quería. Y ahora estamos aquí. A mí me encantaba, me encanta. Estamos aquí, por lo menos haciendo lo que nos gusta, ¿no?
¡Ya no lo toquen! Vamos a avisarle al abuelito.
Más atrás.
No me empujes. No me empujes. No me empujes.
Miren, ese es un venado. Entonces el venado, ese se lo mataban y el cuero lo sacaban.
Y se lo pagaron.
Sí, eso sí, se lo comían, no se lo tragaban, se lo comían. Entonces el cuero, miren, lo secaban, le echaban sal y limón para llevarlo, lo curtían bien bonito. Los guajolotes le mochaban la punta y se lo ponían en la gorra. Y las águilas también se las ponían aquí en su gorra. Aquí en estos cerros se pararon los huicholes también. Todos. Hay por toro, todo eso. A buscar peyote. Harto peyote. Entonces lo echaban con alcohol, se lo comían para aguantar. El agua es para remedio, ahí se rotizan agua, del ojo de agua. Entonces se rotizan los huicholitos chiquititos.
Chiquitito como un niño.
Sí, como usted. Esa agua es para remedio. El día que se enferme usted, arránquese al ojo de agua y tómese un vaso de agua, de esas de los huicholes, y es remedio también. Miren, esta es la casa de los huicholes. Aquí vamos a poner alrededor del 14, aquí, donde llega. Sí. Entonces aquí le vamos a poner el cerro donde van a los peyotes, porque alrededor del 14 sí está un cerro, ahí es donde van a los peyotes. Prenden su lumbre y se comienzan con su pito y tal. Y tocan allí, cantan, bailan, prenden su lumbre. Y otros van a hacer, a sacar su conejo, su venado, todo eso. Entonces, ya cuando bajan ellos,
Uy, no. Claro, otro video. Okay. Great. So can everyone hear and see as well? Perfect. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked it. And now we're going to start the panel discussion with Daniel, where he will explain a little bit more of the background and the different themes explored by this film. And Alejandro and I will ask him some questions. You have the chat function, so at any point you can just type in a question and we will get back to you after our round of Q&A so that you can all participate. And if at any point you can't hear us or anything like that, please just jump in, unmute yourself, and we will just kind of see how it goes. Okay, great. Well, I would just like to say thank you on behalf of Arts and Business Club and of all of our participants for this wonderful opportunity to watch such an amazing moving film. So Daniel, congratulations, it's a beautiful piece.
Thank you.
And could you please tell us a bit more about the background? I mean, you already introduced it in the beginning, but maybe now that we've watched it, we can actually, draw those links. So over to you.
Yes, you could see there are 3 parts. So the first part was filmed in Utrecht, in the Netherlands, and it is this neoclassicistic architecture where you have seen this story where a young pair is trying to protect themselves against the nuclear attack in this kind of architecture. The second part is related to collectors, old collectors. One of them is becoming very ill, and it's very cold, this Búnker. So they try to warm it with their art pieces. But before it, they make copies on the walls. So they preserve, through the copy, they preserve those pieces. And after that, they burn it. And the third part is this Mexican scenario, this just semi-desert, where the children found those vestige, like rests, that you can see that they are the copies, the ruin of this Búnker and the copies of these paintings. And they, as you have seen, the grandpa make an interpretation totally free, and as we told mythology, they relate, or he relates, our contemporary art with this Huichol mythology, misunderstanding and misinterpreting.
Yeah.
So it's more or less the resume of what you have seen. So there's 3 scenarios, 3 places connect.
So it kind of like breaks the boundaries of time and space, especially in what you just said, that they find the ruins of the bunker. So it's 3 completely different scenarios. I think it's extremely interesting. And Alejandro, could you please start with your questions?
I found really interesting the analogy between how neoplasticism was started as a movement in the after the post-war history, and where this new style of aesthetics will help human being to develop, to self-develop, to grow as a human, to empower human being. And then all of a sudden, this furniture, this type of architecture is not enough to protect us. And we don't want to burn. We don't want to use this furniture. So there is all these mixed feelings that you can see in the movie, where not only with neoplasticism, but also with art, because art has we have this attachment to culture and to the codes of that culture, namely capitalism, where in the Western cultures we build our society based in new codes, in new symbols, and these symbols are this art, these pieces that we need to explain ourselves, that we need to preserve in some source of what we conceive or what we have lived with those pieces, and when the absurd part of all this way of build our cultures ends up in Mexico, where the symbolism is more related to the old ritual culture, where symbols are completely related to the earth, to the Mother Earth. So I think that it really is a your movie. I think at the end it's both sides of how culture is developed, how culture and art, contemporary art and industrial design and architecture is part of this constellation. And maybe this constellation, how there is also where everything starts with where nothing is related to anything, which is Mexico, maybe the desert.
Yeah, at the end you bring many things here in a moment. Yes, at the end is this romantic idea or the two sides of the things that nature and culture, one against the other or one with the other. And the whole film is related to this discussion and to this parallelism. Yeah, as you have seen, said, neoplasticism tried to put in contact the human being with the nature. Yes, and then it was an idealistic movement that wanted to make a balanced life for the human being, kind of Platonic idea. And after all these disasters, war, and so on, finally we find that after the disaster, the nature takes the place. The ruins are just the ruins of our culture, and nature is there. You have seen the horses, you have seen people just living there in this kind of harmony that neoplasticists wanted to make through the culture. But finally, the culture must be destroyed for arriving to this balance, no? It's more or less one of the ideas in the video. Yeah.
So it actually, like at the end or at the beginning, which because there's a continuum. This is on a spectrum. Your movie, like it's always
very non-linear in that way.
It is right. But I think it's a really also a critique, or maybe it makes you think about the value or like the functionality of art, of contemporary art, culture, as we at least as belongs to the contemporary society, and how culture is consumed. And
yeah, maybe the matter we have nowadays with coronavirus, we can do very easily a parallelism with the illness of this man who is dying there in the bunker.
Even the atomic bomb situation, that it has nothing to do with health, but it's the same level of kind of global crisis and general societal fear, right? So the idea of crisis is very much present.
Totally, but just in the health of the individual,
right.
Thinking just in the individuals, the point there was, okay, we must choose between culture or health or life, no? And they must burn the pieces in order to preserve this place more or less warm. So this is also the same discussion we can have now.
Nowadays.
The governments can think, we must think on our health or in our culture or all these kind of unnecessary things like culture. No, it's the dilemma.
Yeah, I think it's really, really interesting how that scene explores like different philosophical approaches to that question. It's there's like some sort of deliberation. The collectors don't want to burn the pieces, but then it's kind of common sense to do so for the life of this man. And I really liked that. Actually, in the end, you come out with a compromise. They make copies of the culture, so the culture also doesn't die. So what's kind of the message that you're trying to promote there? Because you're clearly not leaning more towards like, oh, we should not burn the culture, or, you know, we should, like, definitely. So there's a very ambiguous kind of message there. Can you tell us more?
Yeah, the idea is that culture is not just in the objects. Culture is among us. We make culture.
It's ephemeral.
It's ephemeral, and it's something that we build talking while communicating our culture. So, traditionally, the culture was oral. The stories were told, not written, but told generation after generation. So we can talk and make copies and make products that are not the originals, but they are good for communicating the culture. And this idea was developed in other works that I make, not just in video, but in objects. I have made some pieces related to this idea. In marble, I make copies of some iconical video art pieces in marble, in other materials more or less resistentes, like resistant plastic, for example. So I think it's a way of communicating culture is making copies. The copy is something useful, and now in our digital culture we can do it very easily. Copy, communicate, distribute, share.
So it's kind of like a commentary on the value of art, the value of culture, the value of copies as well versus originals. I guess that's a very prevalent debate in the arts world right now, whether, you know, copies and different versions are equally as valuable. And I guess what you're trying to say is that, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the message is that even if it doesn't hold the same sentimental value as the original, if the message, the ephemeral kind of message of that piece is still there, that's what's important to preserve, right?
Yeah, and the message changes.
Right.
Also, if you have the original, what you receive is different in the 15th century or in 20th century. The same object, a Madonna. For you, the meaning could be more or less different. So the optic is the same. And if we communicate our culture, it will be also something that changes. So it's not a matter if it's an original or a copy, because the message will be changed, will be different.
See, I think that it's very interesting for people that might not be into the arts, or they might not be artists or art historians, but that visual culture is a really complex spectrum that many different things are part of that visual culture. They come from different geographies, and that the way something is written or read, and from where it really changes the story. It really transforms the story. And I think that I really like this idea of how you break down architecture, the collector part, and how the presentation, how the message changes, how the history changes. And I think that it's interesting for people to try to understand a little bit more, or to deepen a little bit in how visual culture is structured, and how it's part of many different things that are always changing. And you can always work or be inspired by that idea of appropriating, of dislocating things. And I think that it's a really great inspiration as an artist, and I think that you work a lot on that.
Yeah, I think also for something that had nothing to do strictly with art, like could be design, could be fashion, could be just visual culture, television. All these images are come from art, from the images that the painters, that the artists have made. Somehow they build the images that we use. And I think it's important to know the references. And in this film, we can find easily some references. Obviously, neoplasticism, but also surrealism in the speech that the old man was saying when he was like dreaming. It's an excerpt of the surrealist manifesto. Surrealism, you know, also I want that it's useful for you if you don't know the terms. Please, you can Google it after the talk, and it's what I love of this, no, of the video, to communicate and to help people to be interested on art. And then about surrealism, you can also take a look and say how this sentence were part of the manifesto made by André Breton that are related to the inconscient and to the dream or the importance of what's not logical and conscious.
Exactly. The awareness of what you, your consciousness and your awareness of things that your behavior is driven by your awareness. But the many things that visual culture impact and the underlying and subliminal part of visual culture that is also really important. And I think that's really nice how we really need culture. So one of the messages that I like about the movie is like we need it as much that we need to preserve it somehow, and that we, in our identity and our social imaginary of who we are as a society and as a culture, we really need some sort of symbolism, and I think this is really related to the cave paintings, 30,000 Altamira, 20,000 years ago, where we always needed to preserve who we are and to transcend by creating and by remaining some sort of symbolism of who we were. And that can be different from where you read that symbolism, but we always needed, since the Homo sapiens, we always needed that part of us, and we always needed that remain, and I think that is also an important thing of your movie, because that has not changed for the last 30,000, 40,000 years for Homo sapiens, at least.
Yeah, we need to have an interpretation and to have to find a meaning. Also, we have no clue, no idea, but we must. This man at the end, the old man, who wanted to find the sense of these paintings. He could say, just like, I don't know what's that. It's not a matter. It's not my matter. But he tried to explain the kids what's the images they are looking for.
Yeah.
And it's a very crazy interpretation, but it's an interpretation.
It is, yeah, it's some interpretation. I think it really speaks to how much, art actually matters to the human being, as you said, like the Homo sapiens as a species is attracted to like visual culture, it's attracted to, expression. So that's another really nice kind of layer to the film. And as you said the other day, and I really like that, is that the film is kind of like an art history crash course, because it references so many different things. So as you were saying before, like everyone feel free to do some research on that, because it's really, really valuable to understand the whole context. And on that note, just a reminder that you can absolutely send questions on the chat or even jump in and unmute yourselves. So
See, I think that we should. Does anyone have any question here for Daniel or Cova or myself related to the movie?
if you want, you can, just take a few seconds or a few minutes while we keep talking. And if at any point you come up with something, please just jump in, since we're a bit far away, and we will recircle back to your question. So while you guys, wonder about that, I wanted to ask you actually. So you made this film in 2012, correct?
Between 2012 2014, I think.
Right. So in the pre-corona world, basically,
yeah.
And it's really funny because it's exactly relevant to the situation that we're living today. So I wanted to ask you, the parallels and the comparison is very clear, but I wanted to ask you about your sources of inspiration back then. like why you thought of this crisis situation, why it came to mind. And on that note, if you could also explain to us the part about the residencies and like the context in which you created this piece, because we see it now in 2020, so we're really quick to relate it to our current context of like, you know, this is exactly what we're living right now and the debates that we have right now. But really, this was 8 years ago. So if you could take us back to the moment.
Yeah, and this time, and now I'm also interested, but at this time I was very, very interested on the Cold War situation, a world that was very unstable. Like now, we have not a clue about what's happening next year. At this time, people doesn't know if maybe the Russian or the Americans will push a button and then everything will be exploding. So this situation of insecurity, I wanted to explore this situation, no? And I wanted to take a look to the cultural expressions in this time. And I was reflecting on that. So it's the beginning. And then I thought, with this residency program in Utrecht, where I began this work, I thought that the neoplasticistic architecture was a good place to locate this story, because in the after the Second World War, the countries were trying to protect themselves against this danger, and then they invited to the people to make shelters at home. And then I was looking for the absurd. I like the absurd, as you have seen, no? In order to understand the things. I put absurdity on them, trying to find all the meanings. Then the absurd there was, okay, how can we do a bunker in an anti-bunker architecture that was neoplasticistic one? They wanted to connect the interiors and the exteriors, to remove the walls, to remove the boundaries between the human, the individual, and the nature. It was like looking the original state of people when people were in heaven, no, in the paradise, no, like the human being in the paradise. This idealistic project of the avant-garde movements, and this one in concrete. So
I think there is a question.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's jump in then to the question.
Would you consider this piece to be dystopian art? Also, given that art is an integral part of preserving history, how do you think the context of this piece could possibly change beyond this period of the pandemic?
Okay, there are 3 questions, no? Can we begin with the first one?
Okay.
The first one, this is
dystopian art piece.
Yeah, the story that I tell is this topic, and the third part is the most dystopian ones, maybe, because you find a future where probably the disaster was over, was done, then just some human beings remaining, but the whole humanity is like destroyed, and there are some rests of ruins of culture. Yeah, exactly. The culture was destroyed.
So it goes from like less to more, right? Because in the first scene, when they're in the house, it's kind of a more familiar situation. It's a family, it's a normal house per se, there's nothing too crazy going on except the prospect of something bad happening. And then the second one, it's still a more familiar situation per se, because it's not such a like crazy, like foreign type of landscape and setting, but it's a lot more like conflictive and, you know, problematic and scary in that way. And then in the third one, as you said, it's the most dystopian. So it's kind of like this progression, right?
Yeah, it's a good explanation. Yeah.
Interesting. Well,
And
really went on a tangent.
Yeah. The second question.
The second one is attending to the context of art. How do you think the context of this piece could possibly change beyond this period of pandemic?
The context of these pieces.
Of this piece, yeah.
At that moment, or the context we are, the context.
Yeah, according to our moment.
Yeah.
How could be this change in a context way, the context of the film?
I don't know. Do you have?
I think that. So this is the reason why I actually included Daniel's work in the exhibition of The Punishment, because it's actually that's the interesting thing, that through like this conceptual strategy of Daniel and this film that it's filmed in 3 different locations and in such a clever way, and using the photography and like this absurd side of things and of reality of art, and dislocating a little bit the idea of art, all these in general ideas of freedom, of Búnker, of rings. It comes to something really timely for this show, because at the end we live in the same sort of nature situation right now, where we live in the absurd. Nobody understands anything. Nobody understands why in a welfare state where you should be protected, you need to have a lack of freedom, and you need to be enclosed in a sort of bunker, which is your house, which is not prepared to protect you, or neither these masks are prepared to protect you, or nobody knows how you need to be protected. You can pay your taxes, but you don't know if your grandfather is going to have a bed to be taken care of in a hospital. So it's pretty absurd. And so when you have a piece like Daniel's that shows you in this beautiful, because the photography is actually really, really beautiful in this movie. It shows you that well how this had happened in the past and in a hypothetical future. Again, it's a 3-time or 4 or 5-time scenario. Like not only the Cold War, not only this other hypothetical scenario in Madrid, and this other one in San Luis de Potosí, which is a future one, but also this present moment. So you can have a 4-view geographical view, or 3 perspectives or 4 perspectives of the same problem, because at the end it's the same. So it's the absurd side of life and of protection and of the life cycle and cultural cycle of things, of codes.
And maybe this insecurity is the more natural way of living for the human being. So
that is super interesting. It is super interesting. No, the nomads and in the Paleolithic and in all this, in the glacier epochs and eras, like we didn't know what was going to happen or how we were going to live or how long we were going to last. So
yeah, the periods of security are quite new and are not forever.
Yeah, quite limited, as we have seen. I mean, the period of peace, like it's not perpetual, it's not ensured for anyone. I mean, if we were living a relatively calm time up until, even the 2008 financial crisis, like that's all been thrown out the window, as we have seen. So, yeah.
And I think that this is interesting, Daniel. That they've written about the Anthropocene, like that we are the new era of the human being. It's not the Holocene, which is the last one. We as human beings are the most harmful thing to our condition, and we have the most the impact in our society is even greater than the last glacier era.
Yeah.
So, and they don't know if the breaking point was Hiroshima, or it was the Industrial Revolution, or it was Hiroshima. But what is clear is that the human being itself is the protagonist for this disaster. And in that sense, it is also not only the main protagonist of this disaster, but it's also the main the one that creates that amazing culture. that we are able to do both things, which is that both sides of culture is one of the greatest examples of human being expressions, and at the same time, the other side of war and.
But culture is also the war. Culture is everything that human beings doing. The best and the worst thing.
See.
The atomic bomb is culture. And yeah, it's something that we must deal with it, maybe to destroy it, in order to preserve our planet alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So therefore, I'm living with this destruction of culture. To burn a painting is a symbol, but the idea is to destroy these products, the human products.
That's a really interesting perspective. It's definitely something to think about, really. Again, like if anyone has any questions, I think now's the time to open up the discussion up to you guys, so we can have a more, back and forth type of talk.
It was a third question, no? In this
Yeah, it's Ruina, so I think she can just say it out loud, actually.
No?
So I have two questions. The first one is, there's this one particular scene, I'm not sure if it was in the second part or the third, where the man's sitting down and explaining to the kids about the deer with the drawing on the wall. The drawing on the wall very much resembles Jeff Koons' balloon animal. Was that an intentional reference, or was it coincidental?
You feel Jeff Koons was intentional?
Yeah, of course. The paintings I have by myself on this wall, so it was intentional to put the Koons balloon and to be interpreted as an animal, as a deer, exactly.
Right.
So, a deer or venado, sí, exactly. So yeah, it was a proposito, intentional. Yeah, intentional, because also the idea that they wanted to tell is that there will be misunderstandings and misinterpretations of the remainings of the culture. And this is an example very clear, very.
Yeah, so it's like interpreting and reinterpreting, because contemporary art is what it does. It reinterprets like previously known concepts, and then this is circling all the way back to taking contemporary art, interpreting it as nature, which is really kind of circular and interesting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm.
It's interesting that Cova brings up the interpreting and reinterpreting, because my next question was that, so for example, in fashion, a lot of people see fashion as a very creative industry. There's been a lot of collaborations between fine art and fashion as an industry is known to take things like existing silhouettes or existing pieces and building on them, and that's not necessarily seen as not being creative or not being original. It's almost considered a part of the process, that you take something that exists and you add to it, or you strip parts away from it, and you keep repeating that process, so that there's this continuous cycle of new things that are born from the old. What would your opinion be on that? Because in fine art, for example, that concept may not apply, because fine art is about originality, about preserving what's unique, preserving what's identifiable for an artist or a certain theme.
No está tan sujeto al objeto, ¿no?
Sí, más o menos como que fashion kind of recycles ideas and original concepts get built over and over again, but then that doesn't really happen in art. But then it can happen in a movie. So what's your opinion?
Yeah, it's a fact that this is one of the most clear differences between design, fashion, and art. Art is very attached to the object, to the original piece made by the hand of the artist. It's like wow, no? And in fashion, we don't have this matter. And finally, art is very attached also to the economics related to this fact. why an object that is unique is valued in...
Is more valuable than another one that is multiple, or...
Exactly. Or you can find in a store different sizes.
So it's like the value of art in a way feeds off of like originality.
Absolutely.
And the like inability to repeat that ever again, right? It's like unique. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I mean, I feel like more and more, that's just my opinion, but more and more like fashion, arts, and design are kind of colliding and like, you know, feeding off of each other as industries, but also like in the fundamentals, especially like, you know, current movements of fashion, of arts, of design. So I think it's just really interesting how different periods just redefine everything again and again. But yeah.
Yeah, because in other times it was very common that an artist make copies and copies of his own pieces, and it was not a matter. There was not an original. There are many Inmaculadas de Murillo. And,
there were the ateliers. There were the workshops that worked with the artists. But I think that this idea of preservation, of that we want to remain here forever, that's part of capitalism, and that we want to transcend, we want to be, and that idea of having that piece, that unique piece that has been handmade, and there is only one, is a way of preserving, and I think it's pretty clear that society, the faster that we go, and like in collecting or in the auction houses, we see the amounts that they're paying for secondary market pieces or old masters. There is also a need again to have that piece, or to preserve. Or you see for example, the Emirates, Qatar buying all these pieces that they're from the Western world. That
Do you think that this preservation, the objective of this system, is not maybe speculation? Because for preserving something, I think the most effective way is making copies.
Yeah, that's there's kind of two views in it, I would say. But what you brought up about the Emirates kind of, you know, acquiring these works for the sake of preservation, I think it goes beyond that into like fetishizing the act of preservation, you know, and of originality. Like
it's a status, of course. It's a status of purchasing power, and maybe that you own or you belong to that you have because you have it. Which is a completely fake idea, but it's how we also.
It's something the art world a lot.
It's an apparent. It resembles, but it's not the actual. But I think that your movie also puts into the table this discussion, or this, which is also nowadays a current discussion about consuming art, about the copy, the unique, the preservation, the palimpsest. The mixing of layers of how cultures and how that we see in the surface of art, or surface of cultures, or the narratives of art, is not the actual. It's only one telling of the story. And I think that's also, if you're a curator, if you work as a curator, as myself, and as yourself with your gallery, you see that you are only participating with one narrative or one part of the story, but there will be multiple ways to present an art idea, or...
Okay, well, we've been here for almost an hour and a half. So if anyone has any final questions, now's the time, and if not, we will just wrap it up. I think it's been a very long session of discussing many, many interesting, fascinating ideas, all coming from this wonderful piece. So just last chance for questions.
Please come visit the gallery if you want.
Absolutely.
There is a maximum capacity of 6 people, but we're only 3, which is Blanca, Pedro, and I. I want to thank Blanca, which is helping us as well, and Pedro, which work at the gallery, both work at the gallery. I want to really thank for their support in making this project and this event happen. Also, of course, the art and business, Prena, which is in Mumbai, and Cova, which is here, and of course Daniel, which is always here because he's always breaking down in the gallery. Please follow us at at Memoria Galería in Instagram. We are trying to follow Instagrammers and influencers all over the world, and we just started our account. So thank you for following us and following Daniel as well at his account and art&business. So
a little bit about the exhibition. We have like many historical artists here, also contemporary. Can you tell us maybe a little bit why do you choose and what's the story you're creating here?
Oh yeah, perfect.
Yeah, that is a good call. Well, I think that when during confinement and during lockdown, I was feeling a little bit like punished, basically. And I've been researching a lot about state violence and dictatorships back in my research and PhD. And I thought that this situation that we're living right now in a welfare state and in a democracy was pretty resembling these other situations in history, maybe these ones as well, that where there's been a lack of freedom, or there's been rare situations where citizens they've changed their behavior for this societal fear. ¿Cómo has dicho? Miedo societario, miedo.
Yeah, like just societal fear and panic.
Societal fear and panic. That's I like that expression. So I thought that maybe it was interesting trying to put together a show, which is this one, with my art collection and with pieces from artists from Madrid like Daniel and Rafael Diaz, to try to have some critical thinking through visual culture about what we're right now experimenting as a society, and through some art pieces that reflect not only pieces of the 70s that they were made during dictatorships, but pieces that they reflect on the idea of the city and how we miss the steps on the city, how we miss the works of the alternative life and the contemplating side of life through Ernesto Cardenal and Agua Sorrentiname. Pieces related to, for example, the Alzheimer illness through Rafael Diaz, that he reflects on time and degeneration through clinical documents of their patients, and work of really conceptual work of Abraham Cruz Villegas. So a mix of works to think about why, contributing to more questions, because what I think is complicated right now is to have answers. And I don't have quite the right answer for this situation, but at least I think that with this narrative of the punishment, we can keep thinking about why we are here, why there is also a final sense of empowerment in human being, because through this crisis, and maybe that they came here to stay forever, and we might live with this type of uncertainty for the rest of our lives. It is good to understand that this, in some sort of nature, had happened in the past in other geographies and in other situations. So if we're able to understand this through the arts, maybe we will be able to live happier, and as well to, at the end, also empower ourselves with new resources, with new tools, maybe contemplation, maybe alternative lives, maybe just maybe creating art, maybe things like this. So this was a little bit the idea of the show, and it will be up until December, so it will be enough time for you guys to visit, and you're always welcome, of course, and thank you very much.
Well, thank you for that explanation. I would just like to add that also, like, my absolute recommendation, it's a beautiful exhibition in terms of artists, in terms of context. It's very relevant, once again, to what we're living right now, and it's something that we can all really relate to. So we've actually kind of digested the artworks and the curatorial note on our Instagram on this exhibition spotlight that we did for El Castigo, the punishment, as well as another post on Galería Memoria. So if you follow us and you would like to learn more, you can just go check those out. So yeah, I think that it's a good note to end on, and I would just really like to thank Daniel for streaming this wonderful film for us, and giving us this opportunity and your insights on it, and to Alejandro and all the Galería Memoria team for making this possible, for hosting us in this wonderful space, and yeah, just making this entire event happen. So, and thank you all,
thank you
of
for
course,
coming.
coming, for watching and discussing with us. We've really, really enjoyed it, and I hope you did as well. So I will end the call now, but it's recorded, and we will find a way to upload it on our platforms so that you guys can access it, rewatch the video, ask any final questions. You can text us, you can text Alejandro at Galería Memoria, or the artist, Daniel. So we are always in touch. And yeah, just thank you all.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Take care. Stay
and
safe.
hope to see you soon. Stay safe. Bye, everyone.